In the fading light of a chilly autumn evening, the quiet town of Millbrook was stirred by an unusual sight near the old abandoned warehouse on Elm Street. For nearly 2 weeks, residents had noticed a large German shepherd lurking around the empty lot, pacing restlessly and growling at anyone who came near. People whispered stories. Some said it was a stray that had lost its way. Others suspected something darker, a dog once trained to guard or fight, now left alone and bitter. When the local animal control team arrived that evening, the air was thick with tension. Armed with leashes, gloves, and buckets of treats, the team approached cautiously. But Rex, so they had decided to call him, was nothing like any dog they had ever handled. His coat was dusty and unkempt, patches missing where scars peeked through. His eyes, a piercing amber, darted with both fear and aggression. He snarled loudly, his teeth flashing in the dim light. Each attempt to come closer was met with a fierce lunge, a warning growl that echoed off the cracked walls of the warehouse. It was clear Rex wasn't just scared, he was furious. The officers exchanged worried looks. "He's been through something," said one. "Something bad." Yet no one dared speculate aloud what. The team's priority was to get Rex to the shelter safely. But as the minutes dragged on, it became clear that no leash or treat could calm this dog. At the shelter, Rex was placed in the isolation area, a small, reinforced kennel far from the other animals. The staff gave him space, but even behind the bars, his aggressive energy was palpable. No one could approach without triggering a snarl or a snap. The shelter director, Mike, a man with 2 decades of experience, admitted it was the toughest case he had ever seen. "He's not just aggressive. He's broken. Most dogs like him have been through trauma," Mike said quietly. "We need to be very careful." The shelter veterinarian managed a quick visual check, but couldn't get close enough for a thorough exam. Rex's eyes followed every movement, never letting down his guard. Despite his wild behavior, some staff noticed something unusual, a flicker of something almost human in his gaze, a sadness beneath the anger. It was as if Rex was shouting a silent plea, one that no one had yet learned to hear. Outside the shelter, the town buzzed with speculation. Why was Rex so hostile? Where did he come from? Theories abounded. Some townsfolk remembered a dog fitting his description, spotted months ago near a dog-fighting ring busted by the police. Others suspected abuse. Maybe he had been a family pet discarded after years of neglect. But no one knew for sure. All they knew was that Rex wasn't just dangerous. He was a mystery that needed unraveling. Meanwhile, inside the shelter, the clock was ticking. The staff worried that without progress, Rex might face the dreaded fate of euthanasia. But a young volunteer named Sarah refused to give up. She believed every scar, visible or not, had a story. She was determined to find the key to breaking through Rex's wall of fear and aggression. That evening, as the shelter quieted down, Sarah stood outside Rex's kennel. She spoke softly, telling him stories about the world outside, about kindness and hope, even when it felt far away. Rex didn't respond, but for the first time, he didn't growl. He simply watched her, his eyes wary yet curious. In that moment, a fragile thread of trust began to form, one that would soon change everything. The next morning, the shelter buzzed with an uneasy energy. Rex remained isolated in his kennel, pacing restlessly, his growls echoing through the quiet halls. No one had dared approach him since Sarah's quiet visit the night before, but something had shifted. Even Mike, the shelter director with 2 decades of experience, admitted that Rex was the most difficult dog he had ever encountered. Mike watched as the staff tried, again and again, to coax Rex with treats or calm words. Every attempt was met with snarls, bared teeth, and sometimes lunges that left even the most seasoned handlers on edge. "He's a ticking time bomb," Mike said grimly during a team meeting. "If we don't find a way to reach him, we might have no choice but to consider euthanasia." The words hung heavily in the air, casting a shadow over everyone who cared for the animals. The shelter was a place of hope, not despair, but Rex's future was dangerously uncertain. Most dogs who arrived scared or aggressive could be soothed with patience and love. But Rex was different. The anger in his eyes was like a fortress built from years of pain. Sarah wasn't ready to give up. She studied every moment Rex was alone, observing how he reacted to sounds, movements, and even the shelter's routine. One afternoon, she noticed something small but important. When a child's laughter drifted through the shelter from the visiting area, Rex's snarling softened, his body relaxing just a little. It was subtle, but it was there. "Maybe it's kids," Sarah suggested during a staff meeting. "Maybe he's reacting differently to children." Mike raised an eyebrow skeptically, but agreed to give it a try. The shelter arranged for a few supervised visits from local families with children, but every child who came near Rex's kennel was met with fierce barking and snapping. Still, Sarah's intuition told her to keep trying. Meanwhile, Sarah dove into research on trauma in dogs, desperate to understand what might be behind Rex's aggression. She learned about dogs rescued from fighting rings, how years of violence left them fearful of humans, how their trust had to be earned inch by inch. Her heart ached imagining what Rex must have endured. One evening, as Sarah sat beside Rex's kennel, she spoke gently to him. "I know it's hard. I know people have hurt you, but not everyone's like that. You're safe here." Rex's amber eyes locked onto hers, intense and watchful. For a long moment, the shelter was silent except for the soft sounds of their breathing. Suddenly, Rex moved. He stepped forward slowly, then stopped. Sarah's heart pounded. Was this a breakthrough, or just a flicker of curiosity? She held her breath. But Rex did not growl. Instead, he lowered his head slightly and blinked. It was the smallest sign, but to Sarah, it was everything. Word about Rex began spreading beyond the shelter. Volunteers whispered about the broken dog, and some started visiting just to see if they could help. Yet no one else got the same glimpse of softness Sarah had seen. Rex remained wary, a fortress still intact. The shelter staff faced a difficult reality. They knew Rex's future depended on someone breaking through that wall, and soon. But with every day, the clock was ticking, and hope felt both fragile and fierce. It was a crisp Saturday morning when the shelter opened its doors for a special community event, an opportunity for families to meet adoptable animals and maybe find a new friend. Volunteers buzzed around, preparing snacks and setting up kennels, but all eyes often drifted to the large, solitary kennel at the far end of the building. Rex was still there, pacing, growling softly whenever someone came too close. Among the crowd was Emily, a curious 6-year-old with wide eyes and an infectious smile. She held her mother's hand tightly, but was easily distracted by the different dogs and cats. As other children clustered around small puppies and kittens, Emily felt drawn to the quieter corner where Rex was kept. Her mother, Karen, warned gently, "That dog's dangerous, honey. Better stay away." But Emily was already stepping forward, her gaze locked on the German Shepherd. There was something about Rex that called to her, a loneliness she could feel even from a distance. The noise of the shelter faded as Emily approached, her small fingers clutching a piece of leftover sandwich she'd slipped into her pocket. The shelter staff tensed. They saw the dog's eyes narrow, his hackles rise slightly. Everyone expected Rex to bark, to snap, to chase Emily away. But the opposite happened. Rex froze. He sat down slowly, his tail thumping lightly against the kennel floor. The growling stopped. He stared at Emily, his amber eyes wide and focused, no longer wild with fear or fury, but something softer, something almost hopeful. Emily stopped too, holding out her hand gently. "Hi, Rex," she whispered, voice barely louder than the breeze. The room seemed to hold its breath. For a long moment, Rex didn't move. Then, slowly, he leaned toward her hand and allowed her to touch the tip of his nose. The rough texture made Emily giggle, and she offered him a small piece of sandwich. Rex took it delicately, like a shy puppy. The shelter staff exchanged stunned looks. Mike stepped closer, whispering to Sarah, Did you see that? He hasn't done that for anyone." Word quickly spread through the shelter about the little girl who had calmed the uncalmable dog. Over the next hour, Emily kept returning to Rex's kennel, her visits filled with quiet conversations and gentle touches. With every visit, Rex grew calmer, his growls fewer, replaced by soft whines and curious sniffing. Sarah watched with wonder. "It's like he recognizes her," she said softly. Karen, Emily's mother, remained cautious but was moved by the transformation she saw. "I don't know how or why, but something about Emily brings out the best in him." As the event came to a close, volunteers and visitors alike marveled at the unusual bond forming before their eyes. Rex, the dog no one could touch, was letting a little girl break down the walls he built over years of pain. That night, as the shelter grew quiet and lights dimmed, Sarah found herself sitting by Rex's kennel again. Emily's visit had changed something fundamental in the dog, a crack in his armor, a glimpse of trust. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. Some wounds took time to heal, and some trust had to be earned one gentle moment at a time. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing visit, the impossible began to feel real. Emily and Rex had formed a connection that everyone at the shelter watched in quiet amazement. What once was a snarling, fierce German shepherd had softened, at least when the little girl was near. Emily's mother, Karen, now made it a routine to bring her daughter to the shelter every afternoon. The shelter had even set up a small, quiet space near Rex's kennel, allowing Emily to sit calmly with her book or quietly hum songs while Rex rested beside her, peaceful and still. Sarah observed this with hope. Rex has finally found someone he trusts. The other shelter workers remained cautious but began to allow Emily to spend more time near the enclosure. At first, they hovered nervously, ready to intervene at the slightest sign of aggression. But Rex's behavior was changing. Instead of barking or growling, he wagged his tail when Emily approached and sometimes even licked her hand. It was a quiet miracle. One afternoon, Emily surprised everyone. With a tentative smile, she slid open the gate to Rex's kennel, under the watchful eyes of Sarah and Mike, and stepped inside. The room held its breath as the little girl approached the dog, who looked up calmly and allowed her to pet his broad head. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Mike, usually stoic and serious, whispered, "I've never seen anything like this. Rex trusts her." Sarah was equally amazed. It's like the years of fear and pain are melting away, but only with Emily. Emily's mother still worried, but she trusted the professionals and, more importantly, she trusted her daughter's unique gift. "I think Rex needed someone small and kind enough not to scare him," Karen said quietly. Meanwhile, Sarah was piecing together clues about Rex's past. One day, while searching for information on missing dogs in the county, she found a report about a German shepherd stolen months ago from a nearby town. The description matched Rex perfectly: scars, size, even the unique white patch on his paw. The dog was believed to have been involved in illegal dog fighting before escaping. The revelation hit hard. It explained the aggression, the fear, the distrust. But it also explained why Emily's gentle approach was working. Rex had never known real kindness until now. The shelter decided to start basic training sessions with Rex, using Emily as a calming presence. Slowly, Rex learned to take treats from volunteers, follow simple commands, and even allow leash walks inside the shelter yard. These were milestones no one thought possible just weeks before. As Rex's world expanded, so did the hope of everyone around him. Emily's kindness was teaching Rex how to live again. Yet, despite all the progress, Rex remained wary of strangers and loud noises. The shelter staff knew that the road ahead would be long and that the scars ran deep. But with Emily by his side, the future looked brighter than anyone dared to hope. One afternoon, Emily sat beside Rex under the warm sunlight streaming through the shelter windows. She leaned her head against his fur and whispered, "I'm here, Rex. You're safe now." And for the first time, Rex closed his eyes and simply rested, trusting, calm, and loved. Karen couldn't shake the nagging feeling that there was more to Rex's story than just aggression and abandonment. One rainy afternoon, after Emily had left the shelter, she sat down at her kitchen table and began searching local news archives and social media for any clues. It didn't take long before she found a thread on a community forum about a German shepherd stolen months earlier from a neighboring town, missing after a police raid on an illegal dogfighting ring. The description matched Rex perfectly: a large, scared dog with a distinctive white patch on one paw. The report said the dog had been rescued but escaped custody during the chaos. Heart pounding, Karen called the shelter to share what she'd found. Mike listened carefully. "If that's true," he said slowly, "it explains everything. Rex's fear, his aggression. It's all trauma from being forced to fight, chained, and abused." The shelter staff gathered, feeling a mix of sadness and hope. While Rex's past was dark, understanding it gave them a clearer path forward. They could tailor his rehabilitation around the knowledge that he wasn't just aggressive, he was terrified. Meanwhile, Emily's visits continued. Now more than ever, the little girl was patient and gentle, never pushing Rex beyond what he was ready to face. Sarah introduced simple training exercises during Emily's visits: sitting, staying, and walking on a leash inside the shelter yard. Rex responded surprisingly well when Emily gave the commands, as if he trusted her implicitly. One afternoon, as Emily led Rex on a slow, careful walk around the yard, a small crowd gathered. Volunteers, shelter staff, even a few visitors watched in awe as the once ferocious dog trotted calmly beside the tiny girl, his tail wagging. It was a victory for everyone who had doubted he could be more than a dangerous stray. But healing wasn't linear. Some days, Rex would retreat into himself, growling at shadows or refusing food. On those days, Emily would sit quietly by his side, whispering stories or softly singing. She never tried to force him. "It's okay, Rex. I'm here," she would say, her voice steady and warm. Karen watched from the sidelines, moved by the transformation but also painfully aware of how fragile it was. "I never imagined a little girl could break through something so broken," she told Sarah one afternoon. But maybe that's exactly what Rex needed: a gentle hand, not a strong one. As spring approached, the shelter arranged for Rex to see a canine behavior specialist. The expert confirmed what everyone suspected: Rex's trauma was deep, but with continued patience and the bond he had with Emily, there was real hope. The specialist suggested a slow transition from shelter life to a foster home, where Rex could feel safe and continue to heal in a calm environment. When Karen nervously asked if Emily's family could foster Rex, the shelter agreed, but only under strict conditions. The decision wasn't made lightly. Rex's unpredictability was still a risk, and the shelter had to ensure Emily's safety first. But Emily's gentle courage and Rex's growing trust had convinced everyone that this was the right path. That evening, Karen sat with Emily and told her the news. The little girl's eyes lit up. "He can live with us?" she asked, barely believing it. "Yes, honey. Rex will have a home with us," Karen said softly. Emily hugged her mother tightly. "I'll take care of him, I promise." And for the first time in a long while, Rex's future didn't feel so uncertain. The day Rex arrived at Emily's house was filled with nervous excitement. Karen had prepared a quiet, secure space in the backyard, a small fenced area with a cozy dog bed, and toys carefully chosen to keep Rex calm and engaged. The family was cautious but hopeful, knowing the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Emily stayed close to Rex from the moment he stepped into the yard. The dog's amber eyes scanned the unfamiliar surroundings with a mix of curiosity and wariness. He sniffed the grass, the fence, and Emily's outstretched hand, but didn't immediately trust it. Still, he didn't snap or growl, which was already progress. For hours, Emily sat beside him, talking softly and offering small treats. Slowly, Rex began to relax, resting his heavy head on her lap as she stroked his coarse fur. The moment felt fragile and beautiful, an unspoken promise that he was safe now. Karen watched from the kitchen window, her heart swelling with hope and relief. "He's already calmer than when he was at the shelter," she said quietly to Sarah, who had come to help with the transition. The first few nights were challenging. Rex was restless and nervous, pacing in his enclosed area and occasionally whining. Emily stayed patient, sitting near him until he finally settled. "It's okay, Rex. This is your home now," she whispered. Days passed, and the family settled into a new routine. Rex learned the sound of the doorbell, the gentle hum of the washing machine, and even the laughter that filled the house when Emily played with her friends. Each day brought small victories: a hesitant walk around the block, a relaxed nap on the porch, a tail wag when Emily called his name. Emily became Rex's anchor. She understood his moods, noticing when he needed space or when he was ready for affection. Her gentle nature soothed the dog's scars more than any medicine or training ever could. One afternoon, Emily's school held a show-and-tell event, and she proudly shared Rex's story with her classmates. She talked about how a little kindness and patience could change even the toughest hearts. Her friends listened with wide eyes, some inspired to volunteer at the shelter. Back at home, Rex's transformation continued. The fear that had once ruled his life was slowly replaced by trust. He allowed Karen to brush his fur and even started responding to simple commands from her and Emily. But there were still moments when his past shadowed the present. Loud noises, sudden movements, or unfamiliar faces could trigger his anxiety. During one such moment, a delivery driver's unexpected knock sent Rex barking and retreating to his safe corner. But Emily's calm voice and steady presence helped him settle again quickly. Through every challenge, Emily's family learned that healing took time, and that love was the most powerful medicine of all. One evening, as the sun set over their quiet street, Emily sat beside Rex on the porch steps. She gently scratched behind his ears and whispered, "You're not alone anymore, Rex. You're home." Rex rested his head on her shoulder, eyes closing in trust and comfort. The journey had been long and difficult, but here, in this moment, they both found peace. Months passed, and Rex's transformation continued to inspire everyone around him. What was once a snarling, fearful dog was now a loyal companion, eager to please and protective of Emily's family. The quiet neighborhood had grown accustomed to seeing the gentle giant walking calmly beside Emily, his tail wagging in slow, happy arcs. But one chilly autumn evening, everything changed. Emily and Rex were on their usual walk when a sudden noise startled Rex, a loud crash from a nearby construction site. Rex's ears perked up, his body tense. His eyes darted around, searching for the source of danger. The years of trauma flooded back in an instant. Before Emily could react, Rex lunged toward the noise, barking fiercely. Passers-by stopped and stared, concern etched on their faces. Emily's heart pounded as she called his name, trying to calm him down. "Rex. It's okay, Rex. Come back." For a moment, Rex ignored her. His instincts screamed to protect, to defend against what he saw as a threat. But then, something remarkable happened. Emily didn't panic or pull away. Instead, she took slow, deliberate steps toward him, her voice steady and soothing. "Rex, it's me. I'm here," she whispered, reaching out her hand. Rex's barking softened, his growls fading as he recognized the voice that had never abandoned him. Slowly, he stepped back, allowing Emily to guide him away from the noise. His muscles relaxed, and his tail gave a tentative wag. The incident left Emily shaken but determined. She knew that Rex's past could still catch up with him, and that trust wasn't a one-time victory. It was a daily journey. The next day, Karen and Sarah sat down to plan a new phase of Rex's care. They wanted to help him face his fears in a controlled, safe way. They arranged for a professional trainer specializing in trauma recovery to work with Rex and Emily. The trainer introduced exercises focused on desensitization, gradually exposing Rex to sounds and situations that made him anxious, but at a level he could handle. Emily was at the center of every session, her calm presence key to Rex's success. At first, progress was slow. Rex would flinch at the slightest unexpected noise or pull back when strangers approached. But with Emily's encouragement, he grew stronger, braver. One afternoon, during a training session near the construction site, a loud but controlled noise startled Rex. His body tensed, but instead of lunging, he looked to Emily, seeking reassurance. She knelt down, stroked his fur, and softly said, "You're safe, Rex. I'm here." Rex stayed by her side, his trust in her shining through. That night, Emily wrote in her journal about Rex's journey. She described the fear, the setbacks, but also the victories. The moments when Rex looked at her with love instead of fear. Sometimes, she wrote, being brave means standing together, even when things are scary. Rex's story was no longer just about pain or aggression. It was about resilience, love, and the power of a gentle heart to heal the deepest wounds. Spring had returned, painting the neighborhood with fresh colors and new life. For Rex, the change in season felt like a new chapter, a chance to fully embrace the life he had long been denied. Emily watched as Rex bounded through the backyard, chasing butterflies with a joy that was once unimaginable. His amber eyes sparkled with vitality, and his tail wagged freely, no longer weighed down by fear. The journey hadn't been easy. There were still moments when the past whispered through shadows and sudden noises, but Rex no longer faced those moments alone. Emily, Karen, and the shelter team had built a fortress of love and patience around him. One afternoon, as Emily prepared to take Rex to the local park, she noticed a small crowd gathered near the shelter. Curious, she walked over with Rex at her side. There, she found volunteers and neighbors celebrating a special event, Rex's official adoption. Sarah smiled warmly and handed Emily a framed certificate. "You did this, Emily. You saved him." Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she hugged Rex tightly. "We saved each other," she whispered. From that day on, Rex was no longer the aggressive dog who scared everyone away. He was a beloved member of the community, a symbol of hope and resilience. At the park, children ran up to Rex, eager to pet him. He greeted them with gentle licks and soft eyes. Emily watched proudly, knowing that every step of this transformation was born from trust and kindness. Karen often reflected on how a little girl's courage had healed a broken dog's heart. Sometimes, she said, all it takes is one person who believes. And Emily believed, not just in Rex, but in the power of patience, compassion, and second chances. As the sun set over their quiet street, Emily and Rex sat on the porch steps, side by side. Rex rested his head on Emily's knee, breathing easy for the first time in years. Together, they looked forward to a future filled with love, adventure, and the promise that no one is beyond hope. Spring had returned, painting the neighborhood with fresh colors and new life. For Rex, the change in season felt like a new chapter, a chance to fully embrace the life he had long been denied. Emily watched as Rex bounded through the backyard, chasing butterflies with a joy that was once unimaginable. His amber eyes sparkled with vitality, and his tail wagged freely, no longer weighed down by fear. The journey hadn't been easy. There were still moments when the past whispered through shadows and sudden noises, but Rex no longer faced those moments alone. Emily, Karen, and the shelter team had built a fortress of love and patience around him. One afternoon, as Emily prepared to take Rex to the local park, she noticed a small crowd gathered near the shelter. Curious, she walked over with Rex at her side. There, she found volunteers and neighbors celebrating a special event, Rex's official adoption. Sarah smiled warmly and handed Emily a framed certificate. "You did this, Emily. You saved him." Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she hugged Rex tightly. "We saved each other," she whispered. From that day on, Rex was no longer the aggressive dog who scared everyone away. He was a beloved member of the community, a symbol of hope and resilience. At the park, children ran up to Rex, eager to pet him. He greeted them with gentle licks and soft eyes. Emily watched proudly, knowing that every step of this transformation was born from trust and kindness. Karen often reflected on how a little girl's courage had healed a broken dog's heart. Sometimes, she said, all it takes is one person who believes. And Emily believed, not just in Rex, but in the power of patience, compassion, and second chances. As the sun set over their quiet street, Emily and Rex sat on the porch steps, side by side. Rex rested his head on Emily's knee, breathing easy for the first time in years. Together, they looked forward to a future filled with love, adventure, and the promise that no one is beyond hope.